Something strange is being reported out of Houston, and it has to do with the wide receiving core. How deep is this receiving core? Well, the Texans have a lot of new receivers, including new rookies, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, as well as picking up Christian Kirk in the offseason. And there's some just analysts saying that this team could be the deepest wide receiving room in the NFL. And we're going to have to chop it up because although it might be true, we got to break down what is the good and bad of this team and what could unfold for this upcoming season. And is that kind of take in that the Texans are the deepest receiving room in the NFL, does that say that people are hyping up the Texans? Because I don't know if they believe in this team as much as they say they do. But if you're new to the channel, 77% of you are not subscribed. If you want to stay up to date with the Texans news, just hit that sub button for me. Everyone has been killing it in terms of the support on the channel, so I want to say thank you for watching the video and leave your thoughts on the Texans wide receiving core comments from these articles in the comments below this video. But let's look at the receiving core, right? Nico Collins, just listed all of them. Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Tank Dell, John Mechie. Yes, Tank Dell is injured. I think people are outside of Texans fans. People are hyping up John Mechie like he's this young gun that's going to be this great wide receiver. He had a chance to prove himself last year. We just talked about it in the last video. He didn't show up, unfortunately. Do the Texans have the best wide receiver core in the NFL? I would have to say no. And I feel like I want to hear your thoughts on this, but realistically, you don't know. You have a lot of unknowns with this team, right? Last year, this was supposed to be one of the best wide receiving cores in the NFL. Stephon Diggs, you picked him up for you traded a pick for him. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and the worst case scenario happened. Nico Collins, he had a hamstring. He had a hamstring issue, missed 4 to 5 games. Stephon Diggs, when Collins was out, he tore his ACL. Then Tank Dell had to step up. Nico Collins came back. Tank Dell got hurt in the Chiefs game, and then John Mechie was forced to step up. Unfortunately, didn't do anything crazy, but you look at now the comments that have been made about the Texans' wide receiving room, and I feel like a lot of just sources like ESPN, Sleeper, like all these different teams and accounts are just hyping up this team, and it's like you look at the two outside receivers, Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins. We don't know what Higgins is going to do, but based off everything we've heard of college at Iowa State, he was a monster. Just reminds me of Drake London coming out of USC. I know he's a lot highly touted, but you look at kind of the hands, right? I mean, he is a pure X wide receiver, but he can also run routes, go over the middle, and that's where he gets the Nico Collins comparison, because he is literally a replica of him. His hands are strong. He had a 2% drop percentage last year. When you have two great X wide receivers that can run routes over the middle, I mean, you have a top 10 receiver in Nico Collins and then a even better number 2 in Jaden Higgins. So I am stoked to have Jaden Higgins on this team, but you have to understand that he is a rookie, and there's a good possibility he could take a little while to get up to speed, especially considering the fact that he was a second-round pick. Now, Jalen Noel, another wide receiver who is a rookie. So when you have two rookies on your team and then a older kind of, he's been injured, Christian Kirk, it's tough to say that this is the deepest wide receiving room in the NFL, because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it would be different if you had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and, you know, a guy in the slot like Christian Kirk. Or I just feel like there's other teams that have a much more proven wide receiving core, and we're looking at the Texans like they're this big bad team, and I love the Texans. I mean, we're talking about it, but I got to not be biased here and look at the fact of the situation that this is a new offense, and this Texans team should not get any praise, any hype for its wide receiving room. And this team is mainly being knocked because nobody, at least from what I'm seeing on X and Instagram and just news that's been out there, nobody believes the Texans can block for CJ Stroud. When they tore down the offensive line last year, in the offseason and then kind of rebuilt it through, yes, veterans, but all you need are veterans to just fill the void at every position, and you drafted Ursary in the second round. The offensive line is not the problem. It's the receiving core. I really want to argue this because I don't know how Texans fans feel. I think from what I've gathered from the comments, everyone is agreeing about the fact that this should be a better offensive line. There's a few people that disagree, but for the most part, I think I can speak for myself at least. I believe in this offensive line and the veterans that they the veterans that they signed, as well as the rookie tackle and Ursary that they drafted. The problem is the wide receiving core. I know it sounds crazy because of the amount of depth that you got, and you even still have Justin Watson, Braxton Berrios. Yes, this is a deep wide receiver room. The Texans did that because of the amount of injuries they had last year. Now, they also replenished the wide receiver core because they need bodies, right? When you don't know what's going to be there in terms of what you can use from your arsenal, you have to get as many guys as you can. And Caserio signed a bunch of guys in Watson and Berrios because he didn't know if he was going to get the right guys in the draft. And that's what great GMs do. You fill the positions that you need, and then say you don't get the lineman you wanted in the first round, but you draft the receiver that you wanted, you have offensive line filled because you got a bunch of veterans there. I think this year depicts the Texans because it's a matter of how much can you bounce back with a third-year quarterback in C.J. Stroud, who has been phenomenal. Second year was a little shaky, but we're going to blame that on the fact that the offensive line was terrible. You got rid of the two inside guards that were terrible. You got rid of Tunsil, who he was pretty good, but again, the leadership factors, the holding penalties, the false starts, that's a problem as well. When looking at the wide receiving room, this is a new offense. Not only that, but it may not look like the Texans have the best wide receiving room in the NFL because of the fact that this team has new receivers to throw the ball to, right? Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, they should be in rhythm all season long. And there's definitely a chance when looking at this team that there's going to be a lot of good conversations, but it's a question of if Stroud can connect with these guys and find a relationship and establish some chemistry. Now, he did that no problem with Tank Dell in year one and Nico Collins just finding his rhythm, but year two, the Texans team was supposed to be significantly better, and it fell off a cliff thanks to, we'll blame it on Bobby Slowick, we'll blame it on the offensive line, we'll blame it on the play calling. Agree to disagree in the comments. Please be my guest. But this team is defined by its new offense in Nick Caley, and I want to see them air out the football. There's no reason why they shouldn't. And a few years ago, the rookie year, I was looking back through some tweets, and the craziest thing I saw was the yards of separation from Nico Collins and Tank Dell in CJ Stroud's rookie year. You want to go back to that and look at the fact that this team thrives off its number 2 and number 3s. Nico Collins can do his thing, but if he's getting double teamed, that's going to be a significant problem. You tried to get Deontay Johnson because he was a good route runner. Instead, you bring in Christian Kirk, and Jalen Noel can be a great guy who learns under Kirk and is the future slot guy because we don't know how much longer he got left in the tank. This could be 1 year on the Texans and he's gone. Now, I don't know if Noel starts right away, but Higgins will. And that's the thing. You need to figure out if this team can be good with its 2 X's. A great pickup in Jaden Higgins. This should be a team that bullies corners and just looks like the Cincinnati Bengals of 2021. I could be blanking on the year. But that year when they went on that run and Joe Burrow just aired the ball out, I want to see something similar. I think the Texans' offensive line is better than the Bengals when they went on that Super Bowl run. And this is a Super Bowl contending team. I'm not being biased here. This offense has the capabilities of being a good team. We saw it back with C.J. Stroud's rookie year. It has the capabilities of being not only a top 10 offense, but now a top 10 defense. And that is dangerous. When you have a top 10 defense already last year that's only going to pick up the pace and be better, man, if the offense can pull it together with the new wide receivers that they picked up, it is over for teams in the AFC. The Texans should be contending for their first AFC championship. They should be. Realistically, I think that's a good possibility, and it's a great goal for the Texans to get to. I wanted it to be their goal last year, but they just weren't that good of an offense. They beat the Chargers because of their defense, and then the Chiefs, they played a good game. But CJ Stroud can't run around and get sacked 7 times in a playoff game if you want to win that game. Another thing, and I'm not going to blame it on Fairbairn, but you have to make those extra points, field goals. I mean, that game was a bad one. And Fairbairn, I know the Texans are used to kicking inside, but man, at Arrowhead, that was a tough one. And this just all goes back to getting to not only the divisional round, but for the first time ever, getting past the divisional round. The Texans have not been to the AFC Championship. That would be the goal. First AFC Championship for the team, that would be incredible. So that's what I got for you Texans fans, is the fact that if we're going to hear things like this, the Texans have the best wide receiving core in the NFL, they have to back it up. And I don't think they can back it up yet because there's nothing here. Kirk's first year with Stroud. Higgins, Noel, Dell is out. Mechie, again, hasn't shown it. I don't know why Mechie's on the list. I would put Justin Watson, Braxton Berrios, guys like that. But that just goes to show you the average non-Texans fan thinks that John Mechie is a depth piece when reality says that they might trade him or look to a different option because he might not even make the team for how deep the Texans wide receiving room. And I'm not going to say it's not deep, but the Texans wide receiving room, it may be deep, but is it going to be consistent? And that's the question of this season and the new offense for Nick Caley. I think we broke it down well enough that this is CJ Stroud's year. If you can run a similar offense to what you did in your rookie year, you have a great run game now with Mixon and Woody Marks. If you can figure out how to air out the football and utilize your number 2 and your slot wide receiver to separate and open up the middle of the field and get you your tight end the ball and your security blanket. And I think that Tank Dell opened up this offense so much, and when you lost him last year, that kind of destroyed the offense because a lot of the plays went through him in terms of the fact that when you needed a play to get you to the sticks, it was something, you drew it out, you went deep, and then you would have a guy coming across the middle. That was Tank Dell. Dell was a beast. So now you bring in Higgins, another great number 2 wide receiver to pair with Nico Collins. You got Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins. Tank Dell was supposed to be that number 2, but he was a better slot guy, and the Texans really never had a number 2, right? So now you have a number 2 in Higgins, if he can hopefully develop as a rookie, and you have a number 3 now in Christian Kirk if he comes back healthy because, man, is he a good route runner. So a lot of looking forward to do for this Houston Texans team. I cannot wait. They may not have the best, deepest wide. I know these are 2 different things, but they may not have the best wide receiving core. I don't think so, personally. But it can develop into one of the most underrated offenses in the NFL, not only with the run game, and I know Nick Caley's coming over from LA Rams. The problem that I have is that this is going to be a similar offense to Slowick last year, and they're going to run themselves in the ground. I do not want to see first down run, 2nd and 8, run it again, 3rd and 7, punt. I do not want to see that. I want to see CJ Stroud throw the ball 30, 40 times a game. I know it's a little bit ridiculous, but I want to see that Baker Mayfield Buccaneer-style offense where it's hard-nosed football and you're just letting it loose because CJ Stroud has that capability, and I would love to just throw it, and then let's sneak a run and Joe Mixon pops one for 20 yards. Because when you have a good as pass game as that you do have run game, that didn't make any sense. Let me say it one more time for the viewers. If you have a good oh my goodness, if you have a good enough pass game as you do a run game, they're both threats. There's been so many times last year where the Texans' run game got absolutely brick-walled. There was nothing there. And Slowick said, hey, let's continue to run it. They're stopping the run. They're going to stop it. We're going to continue. No, that's not what you do. If you stop the run, you pivot. You go to the offense. You go to the pass attack. The Texans couldn't pass the ball for anything last year. That's why you reload on receiver. You tear down the offensive line. You rebuild it back up with veterans. And this team should look dynamic. The key word is should. Because they have a lot to figure out, a lot of new receivers to develop rapport with Stroud, and a completely new offense. So that's all I got for you Texans fans. It was a ramble. It was an absolute just run through, but let me know in the comments, are the Texans going to have a better offense than they did last year? I think it's going to be similar to Stroud's rookie year in that top 10 offense. So can't wait for this season. We got a few more months until football, so I'm going to keep trying to pump out these videos. But if you're new to the channel, hit that sub button for all the latest Texans news. Until then, this is Mike Zanetti, Texans Digest. We'll see you in the next video.